Welcome back. Just before the break, we were talking to our distinguished guest today, Piya Mayenin, about violence against women. She runs a show, Legal Help with Piya. I asked her, does she always get questions about or questioned about immigration laws? She said no. Well, let us go back to her. Yes, Piya, we were talking about violence against women, domestic violence. And is it particularly severe in our own community, Bangladeshi communities in UK, or is it prevalent? I know it's prevalent across the board.
Across the globe. Well, let me start from the beginning very briefly. Violence against women, the reason why I did it is it has been recognized globally that there is a pandemic with violence against women. And what is violence against women? You know, sometimes people hear it and they say, why are you just talking about violence against women? What about violence against men?
Yep.
And the thing is, violence against women is actually a definition. It's actually a collective umbrella word, if you like, for all those violent acts against women, abuses and violent acts against women, where the gender is the primary purpose, the motive, primary motive, and it has been recognized all over the world. Because remember, for the last, we don't have to look really too far back, even from, you know, women's rights and things only started in the 1900s in the Western world, and it has been all over the globe. It has been recognized that the world has been under a patriarchy system, and this can be seen if we look at the definition of the United Nations. Discrimination against, elimination for discrimination against women, 1993 treaty. Now, this 1993 treaty is an add-on to the 1979 CEDAW, which is the discrimination against all forms of discrimination against women.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not exactly that. I'm really bad at remembering names, but
there was a meeting in Beijing, and then there was a meeting
that's
last
an ongoing,
year.
yeah.
Yes.
That's an ongoing of that CEDAW that started in 1979, and even that started in the the UN Convention in
1995, I think.
47. There were the Universal Declaration for Human Rights.
Yes.
So it all stems, our human development all stems from one thing, and it goes into the other. I was going to tell you the definition. Again, I don't know I can't remember the exact definition, but what it says. The essence of the definition is that it is to redress and correct the power struggles between men and women, where women have been always put in a secondary position or a subservient position. So that UN declaration, which was it's a resolution, and it was without any sort of voting. The resolution was made in 1993, and the definition recognizes that historically we have suffered from imbalance of power of men and women. So we have to start from there. Then we know why I'm focusing on violence against women. And if you look out throughout the world, whether there's so many wars going on, in every single war, it is all you see.
The women and children suffer most.
Suffer most, and you also hear women being taken as sex slaves, women being raped. So these are violent acts specific to women.
Right.
If you look at Bangladesh, even there was a Boishaki Mela last year, for instance, in April, where women were attacked and harassed, and this was specifically because they were women.
Yes.
And not men, and they were dressed in a certain way and they shouldn't. So so therefore the CEDAW of 1979 and the UN resolution of 1993, all those, they are binding on Bangladesh and all the ratifying countries. There's at least about 180 9 countries, I think now, who have signed up, including Bangladesh and the UK.
But do these declarations and laws even really help? We have to change the mentality, the attitude of people, particularly men, when they look at women. See?
That's right.
How they look at women. See, in all literature, in all cultures, in all religions, women are considered to be dignified. They are supposed to be accorded respect. But unfortunately,
in practice,
the daughter of Eve is always at the receiving end.
That's
right.
It's
the better half, is not really the best half. See?
That's right. It is very, very sad that after all these years we're struggling for it. We have got, maybe in paper, in forms of legislation, we have achieved some rights, but in practice, 1 in 2 women are killed at the hands of their partners in UK every single week. So 1 in 2 women are killed in a week, and that's 1 in 4 women in the whole of Europe. Globally, it's 1 in 4 women. Sorry, 1 in 3 women.
1 in 3, that's 35%.
Yeah, 1 in 3, and then 1 in 4 just in the UK. So, and this is happening right now. There are lots of people that would say that, oh, আমাদের society Bangla?
Yep.
Yeah, like আমাদের culture এসব না, these are all white people doing it. It's not true. আমাদের, you know, very recently we heard of the girl being beaten by her sister-in-law, and then you had loads of murders in Bow, in Manchester, over the last several years of wives at the husband's hands, and then you had this lesbian lover who killed her own daughter. So this is all violence. Now, the thing about domestic violence, because violence against women is the umbrella term, and under it you have rape, you have sexual violences, you have domestic violence, and other sort of violences. Now, before I get to that, I wanted to address what you said about our attitudes. In the CEDAW, and that definition that I gave you, it recognized that there were power imbalances. So the ratifying countries, I mean, because we haven't got, we're short of time, this is a more relevant point that I should make today. It was made, these resolutions and treaties, this treaty was made on 3 principles, and that is non-discrimination, state obligation, and the other one is substantial equality. Those are the 3 principles. So every country...
Here the key word is substantial.
Substantial equality, non-discrimination, and what was the other one I said? Government... I've forgotten what I said just now. Obligation, state obligation.
Right.
There you are. So those 3 principles, every country that has ratified it, including Bangladesh or the UK, have to abide by it. Now, if I go to state obligation, I'll do the other 2 if I have time. If I talk about state obligation is the state has an obligation to make sure that there's no discrimination inside their country, because this treaty is a legally binding treaty, and due to the due diligence requires that the state is obligated to make sure there's no discrimination. Discrimination, now we have to look at, there is direct discrimination and there's indirect discrimination. Right. So if you have a law and you say women cannot be discriminated, so this job, all men and women can apply for it. So if you say women can't apply for it, for instance, that would be discrimination. And if you say everybody can apply for it, but then you have a condition, like, you know, say it's a job of, for instance, a news reporter.
Right.
And in a world which has been a patriarchal world, remember this is recognized by the legislation, in the patriarchal world, women were never given a chance in that particular country to do those sort of jobs before. Right. So that job invitation says that it's open to everybody, but you needed to have done about 10 different seats in different news desks and things like that. This automatically discriminates against women because they cannot fulfill that condition.
Right.
And another thing is, if you have cultural practices that are, you know, like for instance FGM,
yeah.
where, you know, FGM is where female mutilation, genital mutilation, and you know, they are done in the name of religion, but in the countries they're done in, the women do not like it. The women do not want it. It's sort of forced on them.
125 million girls globally are victims of FGM. This is United Nations figure.
That's right, absolutely, and the girls do not want that.
No.
So that's another. So those countries have an obligation, is what I'm going to say, to rectify that, because it is, you know, this is their state obligation. Another example of state obligation.
Touch upon Bangladesh, you see, where politically women have done very well. I mean, we have had one after the other female prime ministers, a number of high-profile ministers, currently the Speaker of the National Parliament, and then even the leader of the opposition, whatever you call her, she is also a lady. So that way we have achieved, quote unquote, some sort of equality or a measure of equality, but the violence against women, the honor killings, the discrimination goes on. See. And how to address that? I mean, at the top level, maybe it's possibly a graduate girl can possibly compete with a graduate boy. See.
Well, I mean, I would say that, you know, it's a breach of that. If the state, if the government does not address that, cannot rectify the situation where women are not abused like that, in, you know, for instance, the Boishaki day, in that case, she would be in breach of her obligation. Now, every 4 years, they have to answer to, they have to give a report of what they've done. Of course, the current government has done loads for women, and I very much support that. And but those cultural practices, those misogynist views and patriarchal domination, where men decide what you can wear, what you can't wear, how you should be. I mean, they decide how you should be.
In your opinion, how we can change this attitude of men in our society? How can we do? I mean,
well, enforcing the laws.
We have got 1 minute for this question.
Well, there is a number of things a government should do. First of all, the laws that are there, they need to be enforced. In Bangladesh, there are laws that you know, that you cannot discriminate against women and things like that, but those laws are not enforced, and they need to be enforced. That's one thing. Now, in any country, there are 3 branches of power: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. All 3 have to work together hand in hand to make sure that discrimination is wiped out from that country under the CEDAW Convention. I want to go back to that because it explains any situation in any country. So, so under that obligation, that's one thing, and the other thing is the state has to provide education. If you need to provide education for girls,
you talk about awareness rather than
awareness. Yes, awareness.
Okay. At this point, we'll have to take a break, and then when we come back, we'll definitely talk more about this very important issue. Thank you for being with us. After this break, we'll come back and we'll continue with the discussion. Thank you.